when you make your customer segment, right, you should not think in terms of your product. Okay, you should do this customer profile independently, customer segment and customer profile independently. Okay, because that's what I see a lot of people do, particularly company like Robolabs. Okay, you want to forget what your product is, do the right side, and then you try to say that, okay, if this is my customer profile, what is it that I should offer them. Okay, forget about the product that you have. Okay, just come to that understanding is what should I offer them. Okay, and that will give you the right answers. And the other thing that I want you to do also, because this is an ongoing exercise, right? When you look at your customer segment, when you define this customer profile,
Sorry, Sudhir, you are on mute.
Lost volume.
No, error on my
can
part.
you hear
Error on
me?
my part.
Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
okay. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So, your what you should do is now you have defined your customer profile. Okay. You put a customer's value map on the left hand side. Okay. And try to see, how they are able to address the pains and gains. Okay. Of the customer profile. Okay. And find out which are the areas they're not able to address. Okay. That's your opportunity, right? We spoke about value wedge in the last class. Okay, so that is your opportunity there. Find out and how severe is the pain for that. And also you will find you will be able to see what is the gain that your customers are looking for, which their competitors are not going to address. Okay, so that will actually help you design some very nice value propositions. So while you do your value proposition, I think one thing you must remember clearly is how will you address user anxiety to switch to your solution, because user is already trying to do something to get that job done, right? So we had taken the example of music, right? People were already using MP3 players and iPhones and so on, okay, and Android phones to listen to music. Okay, so for people to switch to Spotify, okay, or people to switch to a streaming service, they had to make sure that people had no hassles switching over. Okay, the user anxiety was handled, how the user anxiety was handled there. Okay, so similar thing you have to think about when you do your value proposition. And also you have to understand how will you dislodge the users from the comfort of the old solution, because once the user is settled down into an existing solution, it's very hard to change user habits. It's very hard to bring about change initiatives. Okay, so what is your strategy to dislodge them? What kind of things you're offering which will attract them towards your solution to try out your solution. And then finally, when you do your product design, try to understand and eliminate the friction in user experience. We mentioned about this, right? Anxiety and friction, or inertia and friction. Okay, so try to understand how can I eliminate friction and to improve activation and engagement. So these are the two words you should remember: activation and engagement, and I'm going to talk about that in today's presentation. Okay, so I had taken this eGramPay's solution, and this is how their value proposition, the left hand side is to be connected with the right hand side. I think none of you have done that, so that's one exercise you have to do. And for eGramPay, this offer value-added services to customer as uh, offer value-added services to customers should actually go into functional, and they are not part of the social. So, okay, so today we are going to talk about the front stage of business model canvas.
Tushar, can you mute? Yeah, please. Thank you.
Okay.
So we had basically covered these two blocks of the business model canvas: value proposition and customer segment through the value proposition canvas. So we're talking about a value, and what we want to do now is how do I reach this value to the customer? Okay, and that's what we are going to cover. So how do we take it to the customer? So I'm going to open up these two more blocks now. Okay, one is the channels and one is the customer relationship, because they will go hand in glove, and I'll show you how they'll go hand in glove. But first, let's look at the channels. Okay, so channels means how a company communicates and reaches its customer segments with the value proposition. Okay, so there are various ways to reach your customers. Okay, so you can reach them by 100% sales or 100% marketing or a mix of sales and marketing. Okay, so I will take an example of, how would you build $100 million business? Okay, because we all want to build a very large business, correct? So how do we build $100 million business? So there are various ways to do that. Okay, so we have something called as flies. Okay, so we use these icons over here or mascots over here, from flies to elephants. Okay, to signify the size, the value of the product that you are trying to sell. Okay, so take the case of flies. If you want to build $100 million business at $10 of ad revenue like Facebook, you need 10 million active users. Only then you can build $100 million business, right? Then, sorry, Anand, this is yours. So the other category is the mice category, where you have $100 product, something like Dropbox. Okay, then you need at least 1 million consumers, to be able to get to that $100 million business. Then we have the rabbit category. Okay, so rabbit category is like, I don't know if you have used any CRM product like HubSpot. Okay, so that we call, don't come to the CRM product, but come to LinkedIn. Okay, so LinkedIn, roughly charges money for recruitment. Okay, it charges money for sales and marketing. Okay, to reach out to the profiles on LinkedIn. So if their average value for 1 year is about $1,000 from a small customer, then they will need 100,000 such customers to do 100 million revenue. Okay, then you have slightly bigger one, we call them deers. Okay, so it's a 10K deal size that you bring in, you need 10,000 of them. And then finally we have the elephants. Okay, elephants are very large, like, I think, if you look at somebody like DGLI, I don't know how is he going to sell that product, but if he is doing an enterprise sale, he's going to sell it for 100, 200K. Okay, so he needs very few customers that he can sell to if he's going for large enterprise customers. Okay, so this is how one could build a $100 million business. So what this is telling you is, what is the approach you will follow depending on what you're going to charge to your customers. Okay, so this is how the channels are structured. Okay, you can have a freemium channel, that is you offer free and then you convert them to paid customers. You can have web sales, online sales, inside sales, field sales, and local sales. Okay, so the categories that I had shown you earlier, let's see where they fit in. Okay, so if you have a $10 product, obviously you're going to try a freemium model. Okay, or you're going to do web sales. Okay, if you have a product which is $100, you're going to do an online sale. Now there is a difference between web sale and online sale, right? So online sale can be any e-commerce product, a physical product also. Okay, and web sale is purely a digital delivery there. Okay, or you could come into this inside sales. So inside sales means you have salespeople inside the company who do not really go to the customers, but they will call the customers, they will support, they will talk to the customers via chatbots. Okay, and they will try to reach out the customers. So that is an outbound process. Okay, so you are reaching out to the customer. So you will have marketing campaigns. Okay, and then you will do a follow-up calls with the customer. So a lot of email marketing and all will come here in this outbound. Okay, in inbound, obviously, you're going to use social channels and you're going to use a lot of advertising for people to come in. And then finally, we have this target over here on the right-hand side. What the target means really is, you are going to target customers specifically. Okay, so which means you need to have feet on the street salespeople. So these are the field salespeople. Or sometimes if your enterprise customers are very large, okay, suppose you're only going to talk about 10 customers in a particular region, like let's say telecom operators. Okay, so who is my customer? I have Airtel, I have BSNL, I have Vodafone. I think Vodafone is now taken over. So whoever are the customers, Reliance, they need local sales. That means here we call as account-based selling, ABS. Okay, that means the sales guys are assigned accounts and they will sell there. Okay, so that's the local sale. Okay, so that this is how you will use different channels to reach your customers. Okay, now you can take a sales intensive approach, as you can see on the top, or you can take a marketing intensive approach. Okay, if your product values or the contract values are lower, then it will be more a marketing intensive, because you cannot afford to hire salespeople who will visit your customers and talk to them. Okay, whereas if your customers are $10,000 or more, then obviously you're going to take a sales intensive approach. Okay, in that too, there's a field sales and local sales approach. Now there are two ways that you can do these channels. One is your own channels. Okay, that you can own the channel. This is your direct channel. Another channel, this is exactly the question Aparna was asking. How can I leverage partners as my channel? Okay, so you could use partner channels. That means you are piggybacking on an existing distribution network of your partner. Okay, because they have the presence, they have those relationships. It will be going to be hard for you to build those relationships in different regions or in countries where you are not present. That is where you will use these partner channels. Next, we'll come to customer relationships. Okay, so customer relationship is once you have sold the product or you have sold the service to the customer, how are you going to maintain that relationship on an ongoing basis? Okay, so in the earlier case, it was very simple. We used to sell, and once the sale was done, okay, that's the end of the sales process. Okay, so after that, there is some small support. If the customer has a problem, they will come back. Okay, today it is no longer that situation. Today you are going to look at how are you going to build a better business through customer success or through maintaining customer relationships, so that the customer keeps coming to you for more and more. Okay, how are you going to drive that happiness of the customer? How are you going to drive that engagement so that the customer keeps coming to you again and again? Okay, so there are various ways you can do this customer relationships. Okay, you can have personal assistants, somebody who is dedicated, like for example, if you go to car dealership, there will be one person who will come there and talk to you. That's a personal assistance. Okay, if you're investing through a bank, in I don't know what bank products you have in India, but we have money market accounts over here and so on, or we have stock investments through the bank, in which case the bank will give you a dedicated person that you can go to for all your investments. Okay, next is self-service. Okay, self-service is like a SaaS model. Okay, that where you have a self-service, or grocery stores, they have self-service. Then you have automated services like Amazon. Okay, so if you're going to buy on Amazon, you want to raise a complaint, or you want to return a product, everything is completely automated. Okay, then you have communities. Okay, so so there are companies. We have a motorcycle company over here called Harley Davidson, and they have an owners group. Okay, so they have these communities who talk to each other, and then there are company people who drive these communities to make sure they understand their issues, problems, try to bring them together and form that loyalty. And finally, co-creation. Okay, so another type of relationship is co-creation, like YouTube. Okay, so in YouTube, what you're trying to do is, if you look at the reviews or unboxing things on YouTube, you can use that channel for actually co-creation. So somebody is creating that unboxing, and you are watching that video for how that product is to be connected after it is unboxed, or how it is to be used after it is unboxed. Okay, so there are other customer relationship angles that you can see there. But what is important over here is, how do you decide, what channel in the sales you have seen, but how do you decide, where do I touch the customer? Because, if you're selling to a customer, there is a buying cycle. Okay, and if you are if you're looking at customer relationship, there is a post sales usage of the product, where you have to handle the customer, right? So the entire thing is in terms of a customer journey, okay, what we call as a customer life cycle journey. And we have one of the top international experts here as one of our mentors, Dr. Sudhir Kale, okay, who is an expert on customer journey. So I'm not going to talk in terms of customer journey in detail, but I will only say that, you have a buying journey and you have an engagement journey. Okay. So buying journey, there are some standard models that we used to look at the buying journey. Okay. So first of all, when you want to drive a customer to buy your product, you have to create an awareness. Okay. You have to resonate with that person so that there is an interest created. Okay. Then they have to have the desire. Yes, I want to buy this. Okay. And then he will take an action. That means he will purchase the product. Okay. So we call this AIDA, AIDA, awareness, interest, desire, and action. But AIDA is just one model. There are several models, okay, that are used over there. If you look at the customer relationship, the part of the journey that you're looking at there is called as the engagement journey. Okay. How is the customer engaging with your product? Okay. So here we look at the usage. Okay. So a lot of analytics in terms of usage. What can we upsell to the customer? Okay. Has the customer run out of the current subscription that he has taken and I want to upsell to him? Okay. How can I get this customer to refer me to more customers? So referral. So usage, upsell, and referral, these are part of the engagement journey. In terms of startups, we have a very simple metric that we follow, which is called as pirate metrics, because it sounds like pirate kind of thing. Okay. So it is acquisition, activation, retention, revenue, and referral. Okay. So I will explain to you how this whole metric works and how this journey works. Okay. So that's how we capture in the startup world. It's a very simple metrics. And this was put in by Dave McClure, who was the founder of 500 startups here in San Francisco. Okay. So here is what really happens with this model. Okay. So acquisition is, how do I identify my users? How do I acquire my users? Okay. Then comes the activation part. Okay. Activation is when the customer starts using your product. What is his first reaction? What is his first experience? If your first experience is bad, the customer is not going to continue using your product, and that is what you need to be very careful about. Okay. Once the customer is activated, you want to make sure that the customer is engaged. You want to keep retaining that customer. So that is the retention part of it. Okay. So once the customer is engaged, you are going to start looking at the revenue, that I'm generating the revenue from the customer. How can I increase the revenue? What pricing models are appropriate for the particular sets of customers and so on. And finally, referrals, how can I get referrals from happy customers? Okay. So as startup, your acquisition is all about acquiring your early customers. Okay. So don't worry, how can I acquire 500 customers for my DGLI product? Or how can I acquire 500 customers for my Ventura product? Okay. What you're going to do there is, how can I acquire my first 10 customers who will use DGLI? How can I acquire my first 10 customers who will use Ventura? Okay. So these are the customers that, you need a very manual system to understand, who is most suitable to use your product, who most likely customer, and try to pursue them. But your focus more than that acquisition is going to be on retention. Okay. So if I get that customer who starts using my product, okay, do they use my product for some time and just dump it? Or do they continue to use it? Okay. So continue to use it is retention, or what we also call as engagement. Okay. Or repeat usage. Now, this is where comes in what we call as the value equation. Okay. And that means the customer has to see more value in your product than he's paying for that, which means the value you are creating for the customer has to be more than the value you are capturing from that customer. If the customer is paying me $100,000, okay, am I delivering value to him worth millions or tens of millions? Okay, then it's a very good value equation from a customer's perspective. So you need to be focusing on that. Then comes your revenue. Okay, so here is where we talk in terms of a monetization equation. Okay, is the value that you are capturing, is the customer, the money that the customer is paying you, is it more than what it costs you to deliver? Okay, so initially, you may not be able to cover the entire captured value because you do not have scale, but you should put your math together to see that over a period of time, my cost to deliver is going to decrease. Okay, and I will be profitable. That means my captured value or the money that I'm collecting from the customer will be more than it will take me to deliver that product to the customer or that service to the customer. Okay, so these are the two things that you must be very severely focused on in your early stage startups. Okay, and later on, once you get to product market fit, you're going to look at the entire metrics, but your focus is now going to be very heavy on your growth engine. Okay, so what is growth engine? How do I acquire customers rapidly? How do I activate them rapidly? Okay, and how do I generate business referrals and word of mouth? Okay, because what will happen is, moment you generate referrals from them, you are going to reduce your marketing and selling costs, because now they are going to bring other customers to the table for you. Okay, which means your customer acquisition cost is going to reduce. And finally, obviously, is the virality. Okay, so how are you going to look at, this is particularly important for companies like Eventbeep, right? How are you going to make the whole process viral so that your customer acquisition cost literally tends to zero? Okay, and the system builds by itself through a network effect, exactly what WhatsApp did, right? So we have now looked at these two blocks. Okay, and the third block that we want to look at today is how do we capture this value? Okay, so we are going to open up the block here called the revenue streams. Okay, and we're going to talk in terms of what are the different revenue models and so on over here. So the revenue block is about how a company generates revenue from each customer segment. Okay, so what value are your customers paying for? Where is the revenue coming from? Okay, so if the value proposition is heart of the business model, then we say that the revenue streams are its arteries. Okay, which is going to drive the business model. Okay, so you're going to be asking questions as like, who will pay you? Is it the consumer? Is it the business? Okay, we had this discussion about Go Vidyut, right? Okay, in my value proposition, is it the manufacturer or is it the two-wheel driver? So who's going to pay you? Okay, so you need to figure out, so ultimately, that cost has to be paid through the consumer, and that's why the consumer's pains were really important for us, right? How do you charge? Okay, is it transaction fee? Is it royalty? Is it unit price? When do you get paid? Do you collect in advance? Do you collect on delivery? Do you collect as based on milestone progress? What is your lifetime value of the customer? So that means if you acquire a customer, how long will the customer continue to use your service? 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. Okay, and in that period, how much is the money that the customer will really pay you? That becomes your lifetime value. Okay, and we will come to some metrics that will talk in terms of the customer acquisition cost versus the lifetime value. Okay, but I don't want to cover it at this time. We will talk about it later. So when you're looking at these revenues, there are various ways that you can really structure your revenues. Okay, you can have a transaction-based revenue. That means per transaction. Like if you look at Nash Agri, okay, he's looking at a transaction-based revenue. Okay, he's saying that every transaction that occurs on my system, I get certain commission to keep. So he is a transaction-based model, right? So somebody might come with a services model. Okay, so somebody might come with a project model that I'll deliver this entire project to you, and then you pay me on delivery of the project. Okay. And then the interesting model is the recurring revenue model. That means, the customer is going to continue to use your product. And as he uses your product, you're going to keep making money out of that product usage. That means you sell once and you have a recurring revenue coming from the customer. Okay. So if you look at it from the investor perspective, okay, these are the two models that they prefer. Okay. Either you are transaction based and you can show them that your transactions are growing exponentially, or you show them a recurring revenue model. That means once I sell it to a customer, I'm going to have that customer pay for it. Okay. Continue to pay me for the next 3 years or next 4 years or next 5 years. Okay. That means, you are acquiring once and the customer continues to pay you several times during the course of his usage of the product, the lifetime usage of the product. Okay. So these are the two models which the investors really prefer. I'm going to talk in terms of, we looked at business models, but without going into all the 9 sections, I'm going to look at some of the business model archetypes. Okay. There are 3 fundamental archetypes, and there is a guy called Neil Cabbage. Okay. I will post this link where you can read more on the business model archetypes, which are really very interesting in terms of looking at your revenue models. Okay. So fundamentally, there are 3 types of business models. One is a product model. That means you make a product and you sell the product once to the customer. Okay. So it is like buying a fan. Okay. I buy it once. So it's a product sale. Okay. The next model is the service model. That means I charge a fee to perform an activity or do something, right? So I charge a fee for certain service that I provide to you. The third model is the trade model. The trade model is very simple, right? I buy from you, then I sell to somebody, and that's how I trade it. Okay. So this is a typical thing that traders do. Okay. Buy from one and sell it to another. Okay. There are various models in trading also, like you stock and sell, or you do consignment sales. There are various models there. But what is going to be more interesting for us now is to look at those intersections that you have. Okay, you have an intersection between trade and service. You have an intersection between trade and product. You have an intersection between service and product. Okay, so the intersection between trade and service is brokerage. Okay, that means you're providing trade as a service. Okay, so the example here is very simple: retailers, okay, or e-commerce. Okay, so people are buying goods and selling it online. Okay, that's an e-commerce process of buying something, adding a margin to the product and then selling it. So you get that margin. Okay. Also, ad networks fall in the same category of brokerage. Okay, so they have ads from the publisher which they are selling to the people who want to advertisers. Then you have a model that is on the intersection of service and product. Okay, and that's typically a subscription model. Okay, what you're trying to do over here is you're productizing or semi-automating a service. Okay, this is very simply a SaaS model. Okay, so or content as a service model. Now, content as a service is like Hotstar or Netflix. So this is content as a service model. Or SaaS model is like your LinkedIn is a SaaS model. There are many other SaaS models out there, right? So what happens at the intersection is right now where the startups play very dominantly. Okay, this is the third intersection, which is between the trade and the product. It is called the marketplace. Okay, so what you're trying to do over here is you're productizing trade with a platform. Okay, and a good example of this is Amazon. Good example of this is eBay. Good example of this is Flipkart. Okay, so what they're going to do is they've opened a digital market where buyers come and sellers come. Okay, and since I'm offering a platform, I take money for providing that service. Okay, so that's the marketplace service. And finally, very powerful system comes in ecosystem. Okay, so if you look at ecosystem, it is basically a tech or media platform. Okay, offering platform as a service. So if you hear Jeff Bezos talk, okay, he will say that Amazon is a technology company. Amazon is not an e-commerce company. Amazon is a technology company. because we are offering a platform for people to use. So if you look at Amazon very clearly, Amazon has two models, okay? I'm talking about Amazon on the commerce side. They have two models. One is an e-commerce model where Amazon takes products from suppliers and sells, okay? So that's an e-commerce model which Amazon has. It is called as a vendor central model. And they have another model which is called a seller central model, okay, where sellers come, use the platform, and when buyers come, they buy from the sellers. Okay, so that's the marketplace platform. Okay, what Amazon has done is, apart from this marketplace and e-commerce, they have extended this entire thing to offer all the services that these people would need. That means logistics, fulfillment, all the services that they require, packaging, all the services that come along with it are provided by Amazon. So Amazon is turning into typically what we call as an ecosystem. Okay. So there are other examples of ecosystem also. Microsoft, okay, offers an ecosystem. iPhone, or Apple offers an ecosystem. Okay, or Salesforce that offers an ecosystem. If you look at it on the media side, Facebook offers an ecosystem over there. So these are the different models, and let's look at now the revenue models and associate them with this business model archetypes. Okay. So if you look at the revenue models, there are 7 basic types of revenue models. You can mix and match, multiple revenue models. Okay. The first is very simply asset sale. Okay. So this is like your product sale, right? So a classic example is Bajaj scooter. Okay. Or I have an example over here, which is BMW, a car that you are selling to the consumer. Okay. So it's your product that you're trying to sell. The second type of revenue model is licensing model. Okay. So who licenses? We used to have software licensing models, right? Microsoft used to license software, Oracle. So I've taken an example of Oracle that is licensing that software. It's not selling you, it's licensing you. Okay. They own it. Okay. You only have the right to use. So that is called as a licensing model. And probably, where Go Vidyut is heading is they might look at licensing model, but I think they have many other attractive options that they will explore before they jump into licensing per se. Then you have a model which is like a rent or lease model. Okay, so I think there is a company in Delhi called Turo, okay, which is for car rentals. Or over here in the US, we have a company called Avis. Okay, so this is it's a car rental model, right? So you have rental or leasing. There are leasing companies who will lease out the cars to you. So that's a leasing model. Then there is a brokerage model. Okay, so brokerage model is very interesting. This is a model like the Airbnb's model, okay, where you charge commissions from either side, okay, or you could be charging commission from only one side, okay. So when you look at Nash Agri, they have an opportunity to do this brokerage model slightly differently, okay, in the initial stages, so that they get traction, okay. I will not spend my time taking that specific case over here. I can talk to them offline. Then the other model is the advertising model. That means in advertising model, what happens is you have an app, or you have a web page, okay, or you have a magazine, okay, where you have positions where people can advertise. Okay, so classic example over here is Facebook, okay, in the advertising revenue. Now, advertising revenue could be a model for companies like Event Beep, right? So, or there are other models also that they have. So it is not one or the other. It could be a mix of multiple models over there. Then there is a model which is usage fee model. That means pay as you use. Okay, typically if you see telecom operators, they use this model. Okay, so first 100 calls will cost you so much. Then every 100 calls will cost you so much. Or the data that you consume, first 1 GB will cost you so much, and then every GB will cost you so much. So pay as you use model, and Amazon has leveraged that very well for cloud. Okay, so Amazon uses the usage model for cloud, and so also now GCP, Google Cloud, and so on, Azure, they all go on the usage fee model. And finally, a very popular model is a subscription model, right? So subscription model is very popular for the SaaS companies and also for media companies like Netflix and so on. Okay. So with this, you have seen the revenue models, you have seen the business model archetypes and how the revenue models get associated with them. There is one thing that you need to look at is there are patterns that you will observe where people will use a combination of this. Okay. um, I hope I don't run out of time, so I'll go through really quickly on this one. Okay. So there are some business model patterns that you will see, and instead of trying to figure out your own revenue model, you will pick a pattern and try to adopt that. Okay. And there are several patterns available, and there is a book available which will tell you, which are the various patterns that are there. I will reveal all this to you when we talk of business model innovation. Okay, because there it will come very handy, and then we will see how these business model patterns can be leveraged. But since you are here in looking at the revenue, let me open up a few of these business model patterns. Okay, so first is freemium model. Okay, free for a while, and then you want the additional services, you start paying for that. Okay, so basic service is free, you charge for the premium service. Skype is an example of that. Okay, then you have a model which is called razor and blades model. Okay, so razor and blade model is something that the computer printer companies used to do. Okay, they used to charge very low price on the printer itself, but they used to charge premium amounts on the cartridges. Okay, so that's a razor and blade model. So Gillette used this model first. Okay, what Gillette did was, they used to just throw in the razor, along with the blades. So if you buy a set of 5 blades, they just throw in the razor, and then for the blades that you are buying, they used to have this packet of 25. They still have actually, and then you pay for the blades, and you pay substantial amount for the blades. So they monetize it. This is also called as loss leader model. Okay, because when you are selling the basic product like the printer or the razor, you are basically not even recovering your cost, but you are going to recover that cost when the customer engages. Okay, when you retain that customer, okay, and sell him more of the blades or of the cartridges that you're going to sell him. Then is the marketplace model. Okay, example of marketplace is Amazon. Ideally, I would have loved to do this interactively. I would have thrown this over here and asked you which model do you think fits in. But, we have very little time. I think Alankar needs another 30 minutes. Then you have this bundling model. So bundling model is what a lot of these telecom companies will do. Okay, so they will try to bundle various services. Okay, so they have a phone service. They will add internet to home service to that. Then they will add television service to that. So they will start bundling. Okay, so the whole idea is when you're comfortable with a bundle, it is difficult for you to drop one service and take it from somebody else. Okay, so because the bundle price is so very attractive, so that's called as bundling. And bundling also works very well in customer retention. Then you have a direct to consumer model. Okay, so what you do is you cut out all the middlemen, and you have seen a lot of software companies do that, right? They sell directly. Earlier, a lot of Microsoft sales used to be through dealers, distributors, and so on. Now you can go online and buy Microsoft, right? You don't need to really go through dealers and distributors. So that is direct to consumer. Okay. Then there is flex pricing. So flex pricing is trying to maximize your revenue by utilizing your idle capacity. Okay, so this is typically done by airlines. Okay, so you will see if the airline is not running to full capacity, towards closer to the date of the flight, they will just drop their prices and they will sell those tickets very cheap. Then there is metered usage. We have covered that example. Amazon, pay by use. We covered the subscription model also earlier. Then there is gigs model. So gigs model, there is a company called People Per Hour. So what you do is, if I want to design a creative for social media, I will go there, I will pay him $10, get my creative done and put it on my social media. Okay, so I don't have to hire a person. I can just get them for a gig and pay them a very low price. Then there is bricks and clicks model. Okay. Can anybody tell me what is bricks and clicks? So bricks and clicks model, basically, we have companies like Walmart, or you have companies like Big Bazaar. Okay. So they have a physical store as well as they have an e-commerce store, okay, an online store. And they can leverage that very effectively. Okay. So I'll give an example of a company called Walmart that we have over here. So what Walmart does is, they have this online, and how they compete with Amazon is, they will do the delivery next day without having to deliver from warehouse, because they deliver from their local store straight away. Or you have an option to go order online and go and pick up in the local store. So they are leveraging that bricks and clicks. And Amazon is learning that, and Amazon has started doing bricks and clicks, particularly with grocery, by the acquisition of a company called Whole Foods. Then you have low cost barrier. These are the companies which are absolutely disrupting at the bottom of the pyramid, offering you a low cost service, companies like IKEA in furniture. Okay. You can't beat their price. They offer you tremendous quality at a very low price. Okay. Then you have a loyalty model, which is a lot of these hotels use that loyalty model, Marriott and so on. Then you have an online auction model. Okay, online auction model is typically your eBay model. I think none of our companies will be eligible for an online auction model. Then you have a network effect model, which is the model which is used by WhatsApp, which I spoke about earlier. And that's the model which Event Beep has to master. Okay, how do I bring in my network effect? Okay, so that's the model that they have to look at. Then there is an open source model. That means, the open source, the product is given for free, you charge for support. Okay, so that's an open source model. Then you have data monetization model, right? You are not charging for anything, but you are monetizing the data that the customer is giving you. Like Google is trying to do that, right? It's collecting the data, it's giving you the service free. Okay, you think you are getting everything free, but they are trying to use the data and monetizing it. Then there is unbundling. Just like bundling that the telecom operators do, there is also unbundling. Unbundling, there is a company called Free Mobile in France. So what they do is, they have disrupted the telecom market in a way in France, and they say that, okay, you can get a phone service for $1, okay, or so many francs, whatever it is, so many euros, okay. You can get the service for $1, okay, and you pay as you go on that service, okay. So I have unbundled everything. You don't have to buy data from me, I have just given you basic phone. You can add calls, you can add data, you can add whatever you want to add to that. Okay, it's up to you. And each of these services that you add, you pay as you go. So that is completely unbundling, completely opposite of what the other telecom operators do. Then we have servitization, okay, of products. Servitization is a model where you sell outcome as a service. Okay. So for example, instead of selling you a car, I will say, take this car, okay, and use it. This is a service that I am providing you, and I will take care of its maintenance. I will take care of its upkeep. I will do everything so that you have the car running, and I will give you a 99% uptime on this. Okay, so that is something like servitization. So some people do that also. Then there is fractional ownership. I think most of you know there are a lot of these resorts, right? So you don't own the entire product. Okay, it is owned by a couple of people, right? So like resorts. And then there is this multi-level marketing. I think Amway is a company that is known for multi-level marketing, where your customers become your distributors. Okay, so there is a very nice startup I came across in Bamu, okay, that use this model. Okay, so they were selling spray pumps, which is, he has a very unique spray pump which he sells to his farmer, and he makes that farmer his distributor who goes and sells to others. Okay, so that is a multi-level marketing.